What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Prison Break, the sequel, Season 1, Episode 2, Kaniel Outis. So, this one definitely brings up a lot more information that could either mean a whole lot or could mean absolutely nothing. Still trying to figure a lot of this out, but let's get into it. So we do see a lot more of this episode from Michael's perspective, being inside the prison, what he's actually doing in there. Part of the problem of this is, though, that he gets in there after a lot of his prison break plan has already been put into motion. The talk about making it through the ceiling light and then the blackout that's supposed to happen to get them all out of there and who exactly he's taking with him and all of that stuff. When we saw the first season of the first show, we got in there at the same time that he was getting in there. So he had a plan, but he hadn't started executing it yet. But we got to see as he went through all of that plan and started executing it bit by bit. We knew why he was trying to get out of there. We knew who he was trying to get out of there. We knew the people that he was getting in touch with. This one just kind of threw us in there right near the end of the plan, but it doesn't go right because the guy who was supposed to cause the blackout wasn't there. So that is the one problem I do have with this, that it was very hard for me to keep track of what was being said and what all was going on, because I'm just like, you're throwing me right into the middle of this right now, show. I don't really understand what you're doing. But apparently there was this guy that he's supposed to help get out, and yet whenever he and the other guy, he calls him Whip, escape through the ceiling light and get out to the outside, they didn't bring the guy with them. So I was a little confused about that, why he wasn't there with them the first time they tried to escape. But the guy didn't shut off the lights, so they have to go back into their cell and wait for this all to work out. Somehow Michael has connections to the outside world because he ends up getting Lincoln to go get this guy that's supposed to be shutting off the lights. And of course this guy happens to be in like the worst territory possible in Yemen, where the biggest majority of the Civil War is going on. So of course that leads to a very exciting, very intense chase. He also somehow gets a note to Mikey, his son, saying, hi to everyone, a storm is coming. Don't really know what that means. But it ultimately ends with this one guy, that the kid that he's trying to help, who is the son of the guy, I think, who's blacking the place out. He was put in there because he's a homosexual. He is scared of this guy that's coming out of solitary into Gen Pop, and yet the guy comes out and he and Michael embrace, and the guy's just like, is the plan in place to get out of here? He's like, yes, tomorrow night. So I don't really know exactly what's going on there and why this guy is so scary and why he wants to kill the other guy. So there's a lot going on inside this prison that I'm hoping maybe they'll flash back to a couple times throughout the season so we kind of understand everything that's going on, because right now it's kind of a big question mark. I don't really know why Michael is doing this. I understand that he's trying to help some people escape. He wouldn't have gotten put in there if that weren't the case. But I just don't understand. I don't understand what exactly is going on at times because they just kind of threw us into the midst of it. And we're kind of having to play catch up. So I hope that the show will take some time to actually explain what's going on and won't just kind of keep flying through everything, because if they do that, it's going to lose me very fast. But for right now, it's got me intrigued, just as far as what is going on, why is Michael doing all this, is some of what Kellerman was saying, is some of that true, how much of it is true. I am curious to see exactly what the season's going to hold, because I'm sure it's not just going to be, oh, he breaks out of prison and that's it. I'm sure there's something else going on in the background that I'm assuming we'll figure out more about later on. But for what this is, another setup episode to kind of help us get caught up with a little bit of what's going on with Michael, I like it. So that's pretty much a general overview of it. A couple of the scenes I do want to talk about. One in particular is a lot of the scenes between Lincoln and C-Note and Sheba. Some of that just, I don't know, some of it was interesting to see Lincoln and C-Note trying to figure out how to get through this, but then a lot of it was just, it felt rehashed. It felt like the same scene over and over again, as Sheba doesn't really trust him, and Sheba doesn't like what they're doing, and Sheba doesn't agree with them, and Sheba doesn't, and Sheba doesn't. I'm just like, we all know by the end of this, Sheba and Lincoln are probably going to have a thing, right? Because that would be the only reason why she's so antagonistic toward Lincoln, and the fact that she's really beautiful. But I mean, it just feels like that's kind of what they're setting up. They're just constantly putting the two of them against each other and hating each other, kind of leading towards, oh, they'll probably be together near the end. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe this show will kind of defy conventions on that and just have them hate each other throughout the entire show, but they have to work together because they kind of need to. Maybe, but if I've known TV as long as I have, I know where this is going. Another thing that is interesting to talk about, I think, is just watching the Civil War kind of interrupt a lot of what's going on. I mean, because we see this is one of the things that I think is very cleverly done. We've seen before Michael break out of prison. That's easy. It's no problem for him. We've seen him do it twice before. And the next prison was harder than the first one to break out of. Now we're seeing a bit different, I guess, surrounding circumstances. Because imagine if he had tried to break out of prison in the middle of the Civil War. That's what's happening right now. He's having to break out of prison while the country is in the middle of a civil war. There are guys that he's trusting on the outside to do what they're supposed to do, but some of them can't because there's a civil war going on, and some of the stuff that's happening on the outside is affecting his plan on the inside. I find that very interesting. I think that, that's something new. It's something that he has to contend with, and it's something that's not entirely in his control. I mean, how can you say, oh, yeah, I've got control of this civil war right now, it's going to play to my whims? It's not. War is ugly. It's not something you can really predict. It's something that at 1 minute can explode and cause this entire chaos that's going to throw a wrench into your plans. So I really like how they're handling that, just to see how exactly it's going to affect Michael's plan on the inside and how he's going to react to these situations. Because we see there are several times, especially in the original show, where something bad happens and Michael has to react quickly on his feet, and he does pretty well at that. And I think those scenes are always my favorite. Just seeing a character who is normally so in control and has this whole plan laid out in front of him. When the wrench goes into that plan, how are they going to react to that? That's a lot of fun to watch. And then the final thing to talk about is the stuff going on back at home. Like I said, Kellerman's back. We see Sarah's talking to him, and he's telling her about Kaniel Outis and how Michael could be the only one that set all of this up. I'm just like, yeah, it takes a genius, and Michael's definitely the only genius in the world right now. Come on, Kellerman. But I'm assuming that there is going to be some sort of genius that Michael has to go up against because he's already taken on this really deadly company where there were several people in charge and they were running the government at times. So I'm assuming their thought is, okay, well, he's already taken on a big, huge corporation. Now let's have him take on an individual who's just as smart as he is, who has turned him from Michael Scofield and erased Michael Scofield from his existence and turned him into Kaniel Outis. So I'm really curious to see if that's going to be the case, if we're going to see him take on another genius, another super genius at that, and to see if he can handle it, to see if this super genius is able to kind of counteract his plans to get out of prison. All of a sudden he's got this plan in place, and so he enacts the plan, and then halfway through something happens that this other genius threw in the way, and so now he has to abandon the plan because now that's gone. Maybe, maybe not. I would like to see that just because I think it would be very interesting to see that conflict for him. But ultimately, all in all, we see a lot of stuff is answered in this episode. Even though not all the questions are, we do see this is in fact Michael Scofield. This isn't like some twin look-alike that is, oh, it's Michael, but not really. No, it is Michael. Even though he's calling himself Kaniel Outis for some reason, even though he's pretending not to be Michael for whatever reason. I mean, clearly he's using these the origami figures to communicate with Lincoln, with Sarah. He knows that they communicate that way. So yeah, I'm curious to see why exactly he is pretending not to know them, but yet still communicating with them. I guess maybe if he pretends not to know them, whoever is trying to intercept his messages or trying to keep him in prison, I'm assuming if he pretends not to know them, oh well, obviously that's not somebody we have to look at. But I don't know. All in all, I'm looking forward to seeing what the season has to offer. I'm looking forward to seeing where all of this is going because it's got me intrigued. But I would like them to slow down and kind of explain some of the events that led to Michael getting here. I know they're going to at some point, because we can't just say, oh yeah, he somehow survived that, that huge shock, and then somehow ended up in Yemen prison. And we're just not going to explain how he got there. We're just gonna skip over all of that. At some point they do have to talk about it, but I would like to see it sooner rather than later, or at least see this whole prison break plan. I want to see how all of that got built up and how he came up with this plan, because that's part of the fun of the show, is seeing him come up with a plan to escape and enact this plan to escape. And so if you're just going to throw us right in the middle of it, that takes some of the fun away, because now we don't know anything of what's going on. So that's about it for this episode. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Prison Break reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.